And we are now live according to the computer. Welcome, everybody. I am RJ Carter, your host for tonight, Senior Manager here at Critical Blast, Chief Cook and Bottle Washer. And with us tonight, we have Zeb Hatfield and Eric Weathers from Team Battle Brick Road. How you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing well.
Very good.
Very
Thanks.
well.
How are you?
I was kind of exhausted spending all day on Twitter fighting the good fight, but philosophically exercising opinions that mean nothing. But
Okay, that's good.
now I'm ready for the serious stuff to talk comic books.
Absolutely.
That's what we're here for.
And you guys are putting out Battle Brick Road, which is, of course, a takeoff on Oz. And from what I understand, you're not copying the book, but using it very deeply for a source material.
That's correct. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good way of summarizing it.
So why Oz? Why Oz? I mean, a lot of people have done Oz different ways. I've seen a lot of different comic books that have taken Oz dark, taken Oz silly. Eric Shanower, of course, has made a career out of expanding the Oz universe and putting out different graphic novels with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, it sort of started with me actually. I was doing some digital painting at the time, and I was trying to get into concept art design and things like that, and I wanted to just sort of come up with a portfolio piece that I could send out places. And I sort of just decided, hey, wouldn't it be neat if we took this idea of the Wizard of Oz and put it in, if it were a video game, like a first-person shooter, and each character could be a different class. You know, you have your rifleman, your engineer, your heavy weapons, and your support, and each character sort of fit a certain role. And I thought this seems kind of something is working here. So I did some character designs. I thought this could really make it actually a pretty cool comic book. I wonder what that would look like. And I started writing some just rough outlines of what it might be. And then I sent, Zeb and I sat down over some beers one time, and I said, hey, I want to do a new book that's not Flying Fortress. I want to, and I don't want to have to write it myself. I want to, work with somebody. And I gave him two ideas, and we ultimately landed on going with the Oz story.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
I like that you've got it subtitled Operation Zephyr. I know that's an acronym for OZ for Oz.
Yeah.
But I think it works doubly well because Zephyr is a tornado. It's a wind.
Yeah.
Which works
A west wind specifically.
Right.
Yeah.
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 So
yeah, Operation Zephyr was the original title, in fact, of the book. And something about it, like it worked, but it didn't feel like it clicked.
It had more of a Christopher Nolan sort of theatrical feel than it did a graphic novel appeal.
Yeah. Didn't have the punchiness that we were looking for.
So it works great as a subtitle.
It has that beat to it that, when you hear Battle Brick Road, you instantly think Yellow Brick Road. You get that subliminal Oz connection right away.
Yeah.
So tell us about the characters that are in this. I mean, it's going to be Scarecrow, Cowardly Lion,
Yeah.
Tin Man.
Zeb, you take these.
Sure. Any character in particular, or just in general, who are we going to see kind of up front?
Oh, let's just run down the main ones. I mean, are we going to see the classic trio of the arm in arm?
We'll see. Like you said at the beginning, we're definitely wanting to approach this first of all from a book perspective versus the movie perspective. We wanted to really tune into what the old 1900s book had to say about the story, because there's very interesting differences in there actually between that book and the film. Things that were left out that are very much more, I'd say, even modern than what was ever done in the movie. It's ironic. You go back and read the book, and it's got a lot of modernity in it in terms of subject matter and potential. So that'd be the first thing. Is I'd encourage anybody out there, just go and check out the book. If there's one thing I can say, is that if more people read the original now to compare, I'll be happy for that alone, because it is a great story that really was ahead of its time, and there's a reason it's as captivating as it was to its audiences. But I digress. Thea Gale is our central character. We're going with Thea Gale versus calling her Dorothy, and she is our central character as you would expect. She, at a very young age, had lost her father, and she's basically spent her life trying to find out what happened to him. Is he dead? Is he alive? Where is he? Just can't rest until she knows. And she's accompanied on this journey by Toto, which is a, do you remember the acronym, Eric? Honestly, Tactical Overwatch.
Yeah, hold on. It's on the campaign. Tactical
something.
Objective, target objective tactical Overwatch.
There we go. There we go. And what he is a creation of Howard Gale, Dorothy's father, before he went missing. And it's kind of Dorothy's bandit. It's her sidekick. It's her version, our version of a little dog. But we wanted to do something, obviously. Eric, this was something that predated me even. His concept art reflected Toto exactly as we see him. And so we get Toto, and obviously we have Scarecrow, the lion, Tin Man, flying monkeys. We have all of the witches in a certain form, I'll say. And as to how they appear, I'll say we do have all the witches. We've got the wizard. Everything will be in there, hopefully just kind of with a different form. The metaphor I keep using for this is it's got to feel like Wizard of Oz in the sense that it's the oldest, most comfortable pair of boots you've ever worn, but you've got a brand new insole in them. So it's got this new sort of feel, but everything you expect, but in a new way.
Now, one of the challenges of doing something with Oz, and I speak from a little bit of experience on this because I have a short story that was using the Oz characters, is that you have to use the book to base things off of. You can't use anything that was said or shown in the movie. Case in point, ruby slippers versus silver slippers, because Warner Brothers or whoever it is will come right after you.
Yeah.
And shut that down. But in the book, and I don't know if this is something you're going to play with in any sort of fashion with Battle Brick Road, the flying monkeys were not just the servants of the witch, but they were mind-controlled slaves to her because she had the hat.
That's right.
If you put it on, she spoke the words, and they had to obey her 3 different times.
Right, 3 times. That's right.
So is there anything, I know the flying monkeys are there because I've seen the vicious little creatures on your concept art.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there anything hello to that?
Yes, there's absolutely, that is absolutely addressed. And in that form, all the way back to, like you said, with the ruby slippers, being aware that this is the book and knowing that right from the get-go it was always going to be silver. Just because, like you said, we wanted to separate ourselves, and they'd come right after if you didn't anyway. But the book is incredible the way it is. And there's so much there to reflect upon and so much there to adapt and modify and twist. That's what I've kind of been referring to this as. It's a wonderfully twisted reimagining of the American classic. And that's what I want it to feel like, is a twist, but also as you're reading it, that you forget that this is the Wizard of Oz, and it just becomes its own story until you're reminded again in some detail that you're like, hey, wait a minute. I know. Oh yeah, that's right. This is the Wizard of Oz, but it's so different that you kind of lose yourself in the story. And so far from those that I've had kind of read the scripts for me and go over it have said that that's definitely what has happened for them, is they get drawn up in a story that is unique and fun and takes them on an adventure in a way that they didn't expect.
Now, tell us a little bit about the physicality of the book that you're producing. I mean, as far as a page count goes, as far as whether it's a one and done or if it's going to be an ongoing using this Oz setting, because it's a rich setting that you could do a lot with.
Sure.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot that we can mine from. The first book that is the book for this campaign is the book titled Operation Zephyr, and that's 52 pages of story, at least 52 pages of story. Mm-hmm. We have our script already locked in. Zeb's been very good at keeping those coming, and there have been several different iterations of it. But the main story of book 1, 52 pages. That'll be the first 2 chapters. Overall, the idea being that there will be 4 books in this series, and these 4 books sort of encompass what most people are familiar with as the Wonderful Wizard of Oz story. So we are taking, like I like to say, we're taking the bones of that story and just sort of building upon it with our own magic and our own, lots of gunpowder and more layers, I think, with characters as well.
Well, as we've described it, with a lot more artificial intelligence and genetic mutations going on.
Sci-fi, very sci-fi, very
so
military.
It's it's all going to be based off of Baum ultimately wrote 14 books in the Oz series. The first book, The Wizard of Oz, is what we were following. His whatever was in Baum's first book, the thing that the movie was based on, although with some major differences. But our story, which will take place over, as Eric said, the course of 4 volumes, right now, conceivably at 52 pages per volume, will tell that story from the beginning of Dorothy landing in Oz to the end where we deal with the wizard and her, in the book where the wizard leaves, and actually in the book she ends up having to go after and pursue Glinda because she hasn't actually met Glinda up until that point. So there's a divergence there from the movie itself, but that's the story we're going to be telling in 4 volumes.
Okay. If at any time you guys want to pop some artwork up on here, share a screen, I'd be happy
Sure.
to get that up there. Where is Oz as far as your story goes? In the books, obviously, it was a place on Earth that you could get to somewhere off the coast of Australia, because in one of the books they get there. She gets there with her Uncle Henry through a hurricane while they were on a fishing boat off the coast of Australia.
I wasn't aware of that.
It's get toable from there. Well, I think there's more Oz books than there were Narnia books that are original Baum books.
Yeah.
So he was, in fact, one of the things he addressed in his last book was somebody said, why doesn't Toto talk? And Dorothy was like, well, he's never talked. She's like, but every other animal in Oz talks. You brought Billina the chicken to Oz, and guess what? She started talking. Why doesn't Toto talk? And she looks down at Toto. She's like, have you been able to talk all this time? If you can talk, you better say something. And Toto just kind of looks around, looks up at her, says, okay, and runs off into the field. And we don't see Toto anymore.
Well, our Toto does talk, but not in any way that the reader will be able to understand without others there interpreting. It's very R2D2. You can kind of understand what he's saying by how people react around him and that kind of thing. Specifically Dorothy, but that's a lot of fun to play with as well. Is that dynamic between the two.
And being able to give Toto all these silent lines and then allow Dorothy to respond in such a way that it brings clarity to what he said, but in a way that it is, like Eric said, it is fun to play with, a back and forth where one partner is saying something, but it's sort of left to the mystery of what that is, unless we have our translator of Thea present to give us what he said.
Yeah.
So we've got the screen pulled up here. One of the things I noticed on your Indiegogo page was, obviously you guys are well over your goal now. And
yes,
the goal was set, to me, extremely low. $1,000 to put out a book. Is that something that's, if you had hit $1,000, would you have been able to do the book?
Yeah, eventually. But I didn't go in. I was the one who set up the campaign and the goal, because I've done it before with Flying Fortress, and I've been a part of a lot of campaigns. I kind of know how the Indiegogo system works. And we had a pre-launch sign up page as well that had right before we were launched had almost 650 signups. So I knew going in that we were gonna at least do okay. And really, cost wise, if we didn't have to pay anything out of pocket, the goal probably would have been, depending on print size, but a low print run probably would have been about $8,000 or $9,000 for to fulfill like a small campaign. Obviously, this one's now much larger because just so many more people are going to be backing the book. One of the reasons you lower the goal is you play into the Indiegogo algorithm. They will boost campaigns that are doing well, and they judge how well a campaign is doing based on the percentage of its goal it has reached or surpassed. So if you set a low goal, the lowest number you can do is say $500. If you surpass that by 1, 2, 3, 4, 500%, whatever it may be, it stays on the front page and you get more eyeballs on it because people are just browse, explore comics, and it's just right there up front. And that's sort of part of the system that we play. Like I said, I knew that we had a large audience waiting for it. I had teased this Oz book even before I launched Flying Fortress. We were showing off some of the ideas for it, and people were already excited for it. So I knew, or at least I had a good guess that there was a sizable amount of people there waiting for it to go live. And I had been sort of over the past 2 or 3 months really saying, okay, it's coming, it's finally coming, it's here, because I had fulfilled my previous campaign, and just sort of playing the game, if you will.
Yeah. Now, fulfilling a previous campaign is a huge factor into the success of Battle Brick Road, I think.
Yeah.
Because you have a known, you have a name factor going in now. You guys are, at least Eric is. I got to tell you, I haven't heard of you before, Zeb. So
Yeah, right.
This is the first time here.
Yeah.
But when you see Eric Weathers, you see him on multiple books, and then you see there's a new book. You're like, oh, this guy puts out comic books. It's not, this guy failed at his GoFundMe or whatever it was.
Right.
They look at it more seriously.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there is a psychological sort of algorithm game then where you say, I need 5. If I ask for 5, I won't get as much push because it's going to take me longer to get to 5 before Indiegogo starts promoting me. I'll ask for 1, knowing I'm going to get 5. I'll hit the 1, and then I'll get pushed to hopefully 10.
Yeah. The good thing is like, I don't have to hire an artist because it's me. I don't have to hire a letterer because it's me. We are hiring a colorist, but doing a few pages at a time, that would have been available. That would have been an option to pay out of pocket, but it would obviously taken a whole lot longer to produce something that way. But knowing how campaigns go, printing and shipping it's a whole different ballgame. So, a third of your campaign funds can go straight to shipping. It's outrageous.
Sure. How are you guys handling the disbursement? Are you going to have it all delivered to your house and Gemini mailer it from there, or are you going to use an agency?
We both live in the same town, so that's going to help. We are going to fulfill together. We'll sign the books together. So we'll have the, outside of Farah, our colorist, the whole team will be probably on the inside of the cover for signing it. But yeah, I have experience, and I'm still shipping books now because we had a follow-up campaign for the Dinged and Dented Flying Fortress books. So we send out, 5 to 10 packages a week of orders that come in. So I have a system down. My wife helps me pack things. I just know what I know what I'm doing. I'm familiar with it. I know the pitfalls. I'm sure I'm going to learn something on this campaign as well. But
you're into a rhythm.
Yeah, there's definitely a rhythm.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've toyed with the idea of, and again, it makes no difference to me because guess what? I don't print comic books and I don't have to ship them out. But everyone's talked about how the international shipping costs really hit a campaign when they, say they're in the U.S., they're taking in orders, and oh my gosh, we got 25% of them. They're going to Australia and New Zealand and Hong Kong, and it's like $40 or something to ship something there. I'm just pulling numbers out, but they're outrageous costs.
Yeah.
And I got to wondering what it would be like if you just found a second printer overseas, printed all the covers domestically, shipped the overseas printer the signed covers to be bound onto the printed book, and then dispersed from there. If that would make it any cheaper, or have you guys looked at something like that before? Is that anybody?
I know. Yeah, I know that a lot of the guys have looked into it. I don't know if anybody's found anything. I know that, Adam Post would probably know the most about that. He seems to be a wealth of knowledge in these kind of endeavors. It's not uncommon to have something like that. Like your boy Zach does covers from one company. They are signed there, and those are shipped to a different company that binds them to the maybe not company, but at least a different print house if it's within the same company. But the covers are printed somewhere else, shipped somewhere else. He signs them before they get shipped. So that is an option. I don't know, that's definitely something that we'll have to take some time to look into.
Okay.
But then again, I've heard him say that when somebody else is fulfilling the book, he's getting more damaged copies or returns that are coming in. And when he fulfilled Jawbreakers himself, he got very, very few. So maybe they're not taking as much care because it's not their book, and they're just, throwing books in boxes and calling it a day. And if it's
Well, this is
us,
true.
we're sort of taking more care, making sure that it is handled properly.
Yeah, but because a magazine printer, they're like, this is something you read and then you throw out, and we know
Yeah.
that it's more collectible market, and the printer doesn't understand that or even care.
Is that here?
Yeah, I'm still here. Can you see
Oh,
me?
okay. Yeah. No, he went full screen, but I didn't see it here on my thing. So
Okay.
I just zoomed in on the picture to get the image of these pencils.
Yeah, to get closer on these. Yeah.
Well, I was on with, I wasn't on the channel. I was in the chat, but RT Bear was talking today, and he said he wanted to ink this this scarecrow here. So that made my day.
It's incredible.
The Scarecrow, he's the brains of the operation.
Maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I asked where Oz was in your book, and then I rambled on about the original books. I never let you guys tell me where Oz is here. Is it a mystical realm or something? Or
Sure. No, it is very much in reality. The kind of the basis for this story is that it's sort of set in this alternate history. You could almost say, in a sense, where the Dust Bowl continued on. From the 1930s, the Dust Bowl continued on, the water continued to dry up, and the world ended up a very different place than what it is now. And one of the contingencies that has always been in existence with this sort of thing is if the aquifer ever to dry up underneath the center portion of the country, all the way up from North Dakota down into Texas, if that were to ever dry up, the farming land, all this stuff could essentially revert back to very much what was those 1930s conditions. So this sort of takes on this idea that condition continued on and got worse. And in that world, the center of the country became the Great American Desert, which is very close to what it's been called in the past, even when it was all just prairie grassland. And now it's a reality, a stark reality, as all the populations have been pushed from the center of the country and outwards. And so the idea is there's a space, ironically, in our version, in the heartland, so in Kansas, where a signal comes from that Dorothy must follow, that leads her on this quest to find her missing father. She gets this piece of information, the first real kind of clue in 15 years, and she goes and pursues her father to this unknown place, which happens to be in the center of the country.
Very cool. So an alternate present based on an alternate history, or is it more set a few years down the road from our current timeline?
Eric and I have talked a lot about this. There's a fluidity to it, and a lot of it's going to be based around what really works in the art design best for the story. The story is really about contrast, as Baum's book was, starting his book with this gray, dark world, and a world of sort of dilapidation and wind and muted tones, and into this colorful life. That's something that was absolutely adapted into the movie because of Technicolor and the advancements in technology there. But that concept pre-existed in the book itself, which is something we want to honor. So the idea is it's about probably our time or close to when we're looking at a present tense for the story. That's something that's still a little bit up in the air again, because honestly, in our story, it's not something that anything really hinges around. So we've kind of been debating exactly what the present tense time frame is.
Yeah, that whole Technicolor contrast thing was the whole reason they scrapped the silver slippers for the ruby ones, because
right.
So this is real. I'm guessing that's the cowardly lion character running. He doesn't look too cowardly, by the way. He looks pretty fierce.
No. This is an original. This is an older drawing. I did this in 2018, I believe. I didn't sign it, so I don't know. I'd have to look up the file, the file date. But I think it was about 2018 when I threw this piece together. Some of the Tin Man and Lion have changed since then, but it's just such a great piece. It needs to be on the campaign. These two aren't going to be in the first book. They show up in book 2 as our characters sort of journey down the our version of the Yellow Brick Road, the Battle Brick Road, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So part of what you're going to see, like in the supplemental book, which we have in as an add-on or in the $50 or higher tier, part of that is you're going to see that that transition, that update, that evolution of that character and the Tin Man, specifically Tin Man and Lion. I think they're interesting to do because they have I feel like they have the strong, not necessarily stronger backgrounds, but more to pull from in their background to sort of uh, uh, influence what their design is supposed to be like. Scarecrow is very much, without going too deep into his story, you know, he's wearing all of these coverings and this face mask for a reason, but it doesn't go beyond that. And I want to stay a little bit true to the idea of a Scarecrow. The original idea for him was a sort of like a sniper in a ghillie suit for that germ of an idea I was talking about earlier of a video character. So I'm still staying true to that idea, but as we progressed, the Lion sort of just started out as like a big guy who would carry the heavy weapons, and then maybe he wore like, you know, body armor, and on the chest was etched the face of a lion, and that changed into him being some sort of hybrid lion human concoction.
Yeah.
And Tin Man is always, the idea of Tin Man's always been to be a robot, but to sort of after I got the script for when he shows up, I understood what Zeb was going for more, and he's going to change a slight bit from where he is now. He needs to be beefed up a bit, not too much, but I like the nimbleness of him. But he needs a bit more armor.
Yeah, I really like what I'm seeing here. I mean, Oz is something that's been translated a number of different ways and a number of different times. Obviously, Zenoscope has their take on the whole mythos. Sci-Fi Channel did Tin Man, which was another Oz retelling. Sci-Fi. This is distinct from all of that stuff. I'm not trying to say that anything's like, you know, oh yeah, it's just like this or that. The whole point is that this is different from all the other stuff that has come out of it. So I'm really liking that. And one of my
we're definitely glad you think so.
Yeah,
I had to pick this book up because it was the only way I was ever going to find the Oz Wonderland War, which was one of my favorite comic book series that had ever come out. Way back in the day. I don't know if y'all remember Captain Carrot, his amazing zoo crew.
Wow.
And then the short story that I had written, which was not accepted by this publisher, was, you know, this is from Yard Dog Press. I Should Have Stayed in Oz. And this was a bunch of short stories, science fiction ones that were, Claudia Christian has a book in here. She's from Babylon 5. You know, Dorothy after Oz, you know, what life was like when she came back. And the restriction was that everybody had to just follow the first book, which was one of the reasons why I was rejected, because it was, first of all, 9,000 words. And second of all, I pulled in the Gump and a bunch of other characters from the later books, which were still public domain. But the publishers they didn't want to verify that everything was in the public domain. They knew the first book was, and they were going to stick with that.
Yeah. Well, there's something interesting about, at least I know my approach to this whole story is, you know, you're showing these other books, you're talking about Tin Man and all this stuff. A lot of what these other adaptations of Oz do is, I feel like they might either visually or in name invoke Oz, with the exception of Tin Man. I think that's a good title because it's like Battle Brick Road. It gives you the idea, oh, Tin Man, Oz, that makes sense. But a lot of other spin-offs or whatever of Oz always seem to have Oz in the title. They always seem to have the green and yellow look and the sort of the wizardy looking design in the logo and all of that stuff. And I wanted to make sure that we weren't going too far into that well, where somebody that maybe doesn't know Oz can still read this book and really enjoy it for what it is, because we do have a fantastic story here. Zeb has come up with some great threads and great, you know, through lines of character arcs that I've read so far, and it's just fantastic. But just I wanted to avoid that whole. Both of us live in Kansas. we're surrounded by Oz stuff. You see it everywhere.
Yeah,
It's always
24/7.
emerald green and the yellow and the yellow, all of that.
Anytime you travel out of state as a Kansan, somebody asks or says, "Well, you're not in Kansas anymore, are you?"
Where's
With,
Toto? Yeah,
with fail.
Gotta get old.
Yeah.
exactly.
But Eric's absolutely right. We wanted to honor this story, not just sort of form a parasitic relationship with it.
Yeah,
We wanted to take this story and try to do it a sense of justice, to appreciate the fact that it kind of is in our heritage. It's the great American fairy tale, and it takes place right here in our back door. I travel up near Manhattan, and there's a little town up there. The name fails me now that I'm trying to think of it, of course, but right outside of Manhattan, not far at least, there's a small town where it's dedicated as like the home of Dorothy and all of this stuff, and it's got an Oz museum and all of these like really folky kind. Yeah, do you know where I'm talking about, Eric?
yeah, it's in Wamego, Kansas.
Amigo, that's it.
Yeah.
And so it's been inundated in us since we were kids. And so we definitely want to do this story and do it in a way that we can be proud of, and that we feel like we don't just look back and say we really just tried to take advantage of a shortcut to get people's attention. And so everything that Eric has done in the character design and the art has just, I mean, again, people see the Scarecrow and they're just immediately obsessed with what this guy is about. He's got that grifter appeal, Eric.
Scarecrow, for sure.
Yeah. He's got that grifter appeal from the Wildcats. He's got this air of like, ooh, he must be a real BA. I want to know what this guy is about. And I have similarly tried to do the same with the story, making sure that what is happening is familiar again, but also very different and very unique and fun and unexpected.
Now, you've mentioned that the entire adventure is this 4-issue arc you've got going on. Being the writers and the creators, you know how it ends. Are you ending it with any kind of finality that would prevent you from ever revisiting your Oz again? Or
I wouldn't say so, no. I wouldn't say we're ending it necessarily with that. I think on a simple level, by mere simplicity, that the story of Oz that Frank Baum told doesn't end with this sense of finality either. So I'd say we end with a similar sense of finality and tone, where it's nothing we ever have to pick up again if we don't want to. But hey, if this book does incredibly well and people enjoy the story and it's something that Eric and I can justify, I know that we would both be open to pursuing other Ozian endeavors should the situation arise.
Absolutely. The idea being like, this is a good framework for the main sort of introductory to the story.
Right.
But with those 14 other books that we've talked about, that to me seems more like a let's pick and choose from this now much broader world, and then we can sort of really sort of dive in and maybe just go completely in one direction or the other. But staying in this world that we built, which I think is a really, really great world, but then pulling like little things that you learn about from the other stories and sort of not necessarily following the plot or the structure of a different book, but just,
I don't think we will ever, if we were to do another Oz story, I don't think we'll ever go quite as far with trying to be true to a lot of what's in the first book as we have here.
Right.
I don't think we'll look at the others at the same way of, all right, now we're doing book 2. And I think it'd be more about taking elements and then utilizing those, as Eric said, in a world that now is very well established through these 4 volumes that we will have.
Yeah,
exactly. Because there's so many crazy characters that come in afterward. I immediately think of TikTok, the Clockwork Man,
right?
And the Wogglebug, HM Wogglebug TE, and the HM stood for highly magnified because he was 6 foot tall, and the TE stood for thoroughly educated because he was thoroughly educated.
Wow.
Smart.
I've always been partial to Jack Pumpkinhead myself. I'm a fall guy. I've always loved the fall. I love The Nightmare Before Christmas. So something about the potential of ever being able to tell a story that could involve me getting away with telling a Jack Pumpkinhead. I mean, that's right there. That's hard to resist on its own. So,
and like you said, you wouldn't have to or even want to follow the steps and the tones of the other books, but just recognizing that, hey, the stage is set. It's a playground. It's a sandbox now, and these are the toys that are sitting in.
Yeah,
right.
Crash our cars together and build a mountain. So I would hope that you guys would first of all, I hope you have great success with these first 4 volumes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Being that it's IGG, I'm looking at 2026 before we get through 4 books. Just IGG being what it is, and the time it takes for a campaign and then fulfillment. Yeah. I'm really hoping that I'm going to say Comicsgate because that's the most prominent name. I don't make comics, so I can't say I'm Comicsgate or not Comicsgate. But this crowdfunded comics business that's out there, I'm really hoping that one of the things that evolves out of this is a publishing house, a unified publishing house that would, in some way, shape, or form, facilitate a method where books could be funded and then produced more quickly and more uniformly and more regularly. I don't know if that's a pipe dream, if it's even a possibility that somebody could come along and bring balance to the force, or whatever you want to call it.
It's possible. The way I see it right now, it's still the Wild West. A lot of people just sort of want to do their own thing and do their own book. There are some of these creators are maybe banding together and doing maybe crossovers and things like that, but bringing it all under one roof, I don't think that's necessarily kind of the goal of at least the creators of Comicsgate. And Greg in the chat has a good point. You don't have to be a creator to be Comicsgate. Comicsgate is a set of ideals of not conforming to the standards that, let's just say, the mainstream wanted us to conform to. So that doesn't matter if you're, Comicsgate started as a consumer revolt, and I still consider anybody that wants to fly that flag is more than welcome to. But like I said, have anybody like having all of us under one roof. Maybe you might see one publishing group doing something with 4 or 5 guys and somebody else, because it's not out of the realm of possibility. But being able to just do your book, send it to your customer, and move on to the next one is pretty enticing.
Yeah, very. I mean, I've got my yellow T-shirt upstairs, especially printed, that says "Ask me about my Comicsgate agenda." We lost Zeb.
We lost him.
He'll come back.
That's all right.
So y'all talk Comicsgate shit. I'm out of here.
Oh, he's a good guy.
And there.
I forgot what we were talking about. Is that
Sorry, got booted there. Got bounced there for a second.
There we go.
Yeah, I was just talking about a way of increasing distribution and coming up with a regularity of production.
Yeah. And I think some of that would come with having more of the book done before you launch. More and more people are doing that. I had Flying Fortress done before we launched. Theoretically, I had to re-letter it, but we're waiting on drawing. Mm-hmm. This book is not one of those. This one is not done before we launch the campaign. But you're going to be watching me. We're going to be watching it being created up. I'm posting it as I go. I stream on Twitch some nights when I can. I stream on Twitch and I'll work that way. So you're going to be involved in the process as much or as little as you want to as a reader, as a backer. Once you put your $25 or more in, like the book, I like what Ethan says. Like, the book is now yours. So I'm going to show you what artwork you've already paid for. You don't have to click on the link to see the preview pages, but they're there if you want to. Right. And the book will arrive in the best story, the best drawings, the best lettering, the best coloring that we can provide. And
that's what I love about independent. I mean, Eric, you bringing me into this project and everything that it really is, and independent crowdfunded comics can be, is the backer is the boss. The backer is the one you're trying to impress. The backer is the one who is giving you the ability to financially do this, whereas it's not some corporate exec telling you what you're going to do and how you're going to do it and setting your theme and setting your story and setting your tone. This is them trusting us implicitly to deliver on what we say we'll deliver based off of what we give them in the video trailer Eric put together. And then it's us directly fulfilling to them. And that's so fulfilling for us is that idea that you backed it, we get to show you, and you're part of this process. And that's I think the biggest part of it is it builds that community, that sense of ownership, that sense of I was a part of this directly. And that's, I think, an incredible thing.
Now, I think one of the advantages that you guys have also in this process is that you're a creative team. You're a writer and an artist, and I've seen a lot of comics get crowdfunded by a writer,
Mm-hmm.
and what a lot of the backers or potential backers don't understand is that if there's any kind of art at all being shown as promotional for this IGG, well, the artist isn't part of the IGG. The writer had to pay for that out of pocket, and that sometimes they may be already several $1,000s in the hole that they're trying to just recoup before they're even breaking even with their IGG. And I think a lot of people see that and think, I'm going to kick off an IGG and do this without realizing how much it could cost them up front. So you guys are very fortunate that, the artist is on the team.
I'm very fortunate for Eric. That's what it comes down to. Eric's a perfectly gifted storyteller on his own accord. He could absolutely tell any story that he wanted to. As a writer, I certainly feel, and it's a comic book. It revolves around the art and the writing together. But the art is everything that people are seeing now and getting drawn into by a large standard. I hope the blurbs and the things that are written up are effective, and I think they have been, but it's really Eric's art. It's Eric's artwork and the things they're visualizing and seeing. And so I'm the fortunate one. He's the one who's got this book that he's gotten off the ground. Flying Fortress did so well for his first Indiegogo project, and all these people are coming back for more, which shows his dedication to the craft and his honorability and the name he's made for himself in less than 2 years of really doing this lettering thing. And so as a writer, I am on the altar of the artist. I mean, that's why I haven't produced more in certain aspects, is it's tough. It's financially a large burden to pay an artist to produce, because it's a lot of time, a lot of effort.
The good thing about Zeb and I is we're friends in real life. So if we want to go have a beer sometime, if the government will allow us to, we'll do that. The other thing is people with the audience really loves.
Good day, Rusty.
What's that?
Oh, I said good day to Rusty.
Okay. The audience really loves a passion project. They really do. And what they get with Zeb and I is, I think we're both equally passionate about this book. Because I, as the artist, came to him and said, what can you do for me? And I think you were just chomping at the bit to write a great story. And that's why, I came to you with 2 ideas, and you said, I want to do the Wizard of Oz one. So there's a lot of energy coming from both of us for this to make it the best that we can get for anybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is how it's going to have real organic growth, because Eric, you put out some books already, and then you come up with Battle Brick Road. You go get Zeb, say, hey, I need a writer. Now Zeb's brought into this. You guys are going to do 4 issues of Battle Brick Road to tell this story. Zeb's going to have another idea to write. He's going to have a track record. He's going to say, hey, I want to do this. You're going to say, well, I'm kind of busy on this. Zeb can now go get another artist, bring him in. And even if that artist has not produced anything yet, because of Zeb's track record that he's inheriting now off of this, that artist will get a chance in here. And it's just going to extrapolate on outward until this is a really larger movement than what it is already.
That would certainly be the hope. I would love to, at ZM Hatfield is on the screen. I would love to do just that. Eric has got a huge, what did you say? Like 700 people that were on your Flying Fortress email list.
Yeah, 660 backers on the first one, and we just reached 200 on the second one. So over 800.
Yeah, right. And so that's a lot of people that got brought into this, and I would love for that to translate into even more as we move through. I mean, we've got a lot of time left. I'm really dedicated to just thinking in terms of what is Battle Brick Road and what can we do to. I mean, it's a labor of love, that's for sure. It's an intimidating prospect on both sides. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Hope so.
Yeah, that'd be incredible.
I Borrow Ideas is in the chat. He's like, Eric, with all the work that you do, how many pages do you see yourself completing in a week or a month? If you can answer that.
That's a good question. I Borrow Ideas, as maybe some of your audience know. I know I Borrow Ideas knows. I've been sort of bestowed, the title of busiest man in Comicsgate has been bestowed upon me. I work on several projects, mostly through lettering. I do graphic design, logo design. Occasionally I'll do pre-press as well. So I have earned that title. But to answer your question, I'm busy because I get work done. I get stuff done. With my current schedule, it's hard to nail down like what it would be an average of a month, because pages or books sort of come in waves. But right now, my current schedule is to have at least 2 pages done a week, and that can accordion, increase or decrease depending on the workload. For instance, this week, Thursday is my deadline for the next set of the number 2s for all the Allegiance books. So that's 4 books. That's essentially four work days where I need to spend time lettering. And I've got another lettering job I have to do once we get done here with this. But then after those 10 pages are done, I get back on my iPad, I start sketching. I've got 1.5 to 2 pages already ready to be penciled. And that'll be probably later. What's today? Tuesday? Probably later this week, I'll be putting lead on paper to get these 2 pages done. The other thing about this, the art style that we have chosen, or that I have decided to go with for this book, is it's just pencils and colors. There's no inking involved. So one, because I really, really like the way that looks. There are certain books and certain artists that I've seen. If I had any next to me, I don't. I always have like comics around. It's like, how would this artist do like this breakdown? Or what's a good panel? I'm always
Gene Ha comes to mind for me. Gene Ha, somebody who's real good at doing the pencils, straight colors.
Yep, exactly. Gene Ha. When Joe Mad is doing comics, it's been a few years, but he will just do his pencils will just get colored, like with his Avenging Spider-Man and his Savage Wolverine, his Ultimates 3. Mm-hmm. Those are just pencils. Lionel Yu the same way. A lot of times he got inked by Jerry. I don't know how to pronounce Jerry's last name, Anguilla or something like that. But there were plenty of times where it was just pencils. Some of the new Avengers was that way. Ultimate Wolverine versus Hulk was that way. Just a really good. There's an aesthetic that we're going for with that look, and I feel like the way my pencils look with Farah's coloring it, we're really. It looks exactly how I wanted it to look. So I say that to say, you're not going to be waiting for me to pencil a page and then either send it to an inker or get an inker or ink it myself. It's the production's going to move along a little faster that way. Yeah. So.
Okay. It sounds kind of a stupid question coming from me, but obviously it takes you longer to draw a page that has more on it than a page that's got less. But what I was really meaning to ask was a splash page that's basically one big panel. You might be able to get that done faster than a page that's got a 6 or 7 panel staggered layout to it.
Yeah. Well, it depends on the page. It depends on what's on the page.
Subject matter. Yeah.
Yeah. If it's just talking, that can get done in an afternoon. It's not really a big deal, unless because artists out there, you'll understand. Sometimes you draw the same head 15 times and you can never get it right, and you're stuck on the page for 3 days. But
that's why if you're Keith Giffen, you get it right the first time, and then you just copy and paste it everywhere else in the book.
See, that's the thing. I'm not working digital. There's no copy paste. It's all traditional. Yeah, I do my layouts digitally, but I print it out and I pencil traditionally.
VIP asks if you do Allegiance too.
Yes, I do. I letter all of the Breitweiser's Allegiance books, from all of them, all four titles.
I've got to find a Walmart in my area that carries them. I, of course, stupidly went to the toy department of my Walmart because that's where I saw the end caps and the pictures. And then somebody on Twitter found them in the stand in the electronics department. I'm like, well, frozen food while I'm at it.
I went on Tuesday to my local Walmart. They weren't there. They're supposed to launch May 5th, so it's been, I guess today's a week, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
My math checks out. Yep. Don't ever trust me for math, but we'll chalk that one up to luck. I went Tuesday. They weren't there yet, but I called Mitch and I said, "Hey, congrats, the launch. How you feeling? How's everything?" And he let me know that launch window of setting up those displays was between the 4th and the 9th. So that whole week, the printer, the distributor, Ready Reader Link, I think they're called. They have representatives that go and set them up. So they're supposed to be in the book section, but I'm seeing some places that are having an electronic section. I know in early talks he said they were going to be in the toy section, but I guess they've they since changed it.
Did he give you any feelings about these reports coming in where Walmart's putting stickers on the front of the books?
Yeah, he said there was a phone call that was going to go out to see if they can make that not happen anymore. That is, I think it's Walmart employees that have to sticker the books. From what I have seen, they peel right off. I still haven't been back to go see if the books are there in my locals. Of course, I got comps, but I still want to go experience. I want to go see it for sure. So I don't know if Zeb, if you've been out to go see
I haven't. I need to look. I ran into Walmart the other day, but forgot to go and check.
Terrible.
Terrible. Absolutely.
I get my Archie digest for my son's 12 years old. And if I were to walk the camera out of this room and open the door, we have a Toys R Us book rack that we bought when they were going out of business, one of the big wireframes. And it's jam-packed row by row, front to back with Archie digests. He's just been devouring the things.
That's great.
He prefers them because they're more real than superhero titles are.
You got a realist on your hands, huh?
Yeah, when you start dating two girls and they're okay with it, you let me know how real that gets. Real quick here, I talked about, if there were more than one panel on the page, and that gets down to the writing and the breakdown there. Zeb, have you written any kind of a comic script before? And
yeah, I have a comic that I've done with another artist, John Osborne, that we've got 2 issues currently out. I've scripted 6 for that. And that's called Frankenaut. It's sort of a space sci-fi gladiator story that all, for the most part, takes place on a giant spaceship. Got millions and millions of people. It's basically like its own planet. And they travel the galaxy to different exotic environments where these testers or gladiators are forced to compete to try out new technologies, to see what works on the battlefield, and all these people vote on it and make money and bet on these things, and so it's this kind of twist on those 2 things in space, and it's a really fun story. It's on what's the website? Indie Planet. If you type in Frankenaut, both issues are on Indie Planet. I believe they're still for free digitally. If you want to download them digitally, I think they're still for free on there. Also, I work for an organization called the EAA, which is the Experimental Aircraft Association. They're a nonprofit out of Wisconsin. And a couple years back, they approached Marvel Comics, and long story short, Stan Lee decided to give this company one of their characters, or one of his characters from his character vault. That was sort of an aviation-based character that was just never used. And so, long story short, they got the character, and I got the call to be the writer for that story. And so it's another comic book that's all available for free online at Aviore, A-V-I-O-R-E, aviore.org. There's a section on there right now where I think the first 5 comics are available online there. To view, and you can also, I think, purchase those off of a website somewhere. I'm not sure on that, but those are the 2 projects I've got that people can go look at, aside from Battle Brick Road, which has been the big project of late for me, for sure.
So what's your approach then in writing a script? Is it more, okay, on this page they're going to get into a fight, but by the end of the page they're going to realize that they're best friends? Or is it panel 1, close up?
It depends. Yeah, it depends on the page. If there's if it's an action page, something, and also I think one of the fun things too is Eric and I are learning to speak each other's languages too as we work together. Is I see things very cinematically, so I can absolutely give you, your page 1, panel 1, close up, just the eyes, a little sweat. I can give you the whole thing, and that works for some people very well. Eric is perfectly intuitive on these things. In fact, if I just don't say it, if I say it, he's just going to find something better to say on that thing or show, and then I'm just going to feel stupid. So it's just better to leave some things. So it's sometimes better just to be a little more ambiguous. But if it's a dialogue page, if it's a page with more exposition, things like that, I'll get a little more specific. But if it's an action page, I really am getting to a place in the scripts where it's more about, okay, at the beginning of the page, we're starting here. The turn should be something about here. Here's kind of what the dialogue chop should be for the page. And, whatever way you think the action needs to carry best, he's the visual artist. I'm telling the story.
Really choreography at that point.
Yeah, it is. And sometimes I'll see it very specifically. Other times, and most times I'd say with action, it's like, we just need to get this, and you see it how you see it, and let's get this story moving. So it kind of varies.
So for people who are going out and backing Battle Brick Road. And the link is right down there in the description, guys. Be sure to click on that, hit out there, and get backed in there on that thing,
We'd
which is
appreciate
exactly what I'm going to do as soon as I'm going to get off of here now. What is the ballpark, pull it out of your butt, swag deadline for this kind of thing?
Well, that lies on me mostly. Obviously, the artist the scripts are done. Zeb can take his hat off and sit back and relax and crack open
It's
a beer.
great. It's amazing.
Now,
Yeah.
you got to promote.
Yeah, currently with our schedule, again, depending on workload, with the lettering and all that, I should have all of the pages penciled in the October-November timeframe. And again, we're not needing to ink them, so that cuts out several hundred hours of several hundred man hours out of the pipeline. Our colorist, we'll probably hit a bottleneck there because our colorist is sort of, I sort of jokingly say she's turning into the Eric Weathers of the coloring in Comicsgate because she's starting to sort of get all these jobs for everybody. She started out with Door Kickers with Scott McCullough. She moved on to Peregrine Wings of the Falcon. She's doing College of the Dead 2. I think she's going to be doing Lady Alchemy as well, and we're in there somewhere. I've been told that she will get to our pages in July or August. So even now, like, we're going to be waiting a little while before there's more. There will be more artwork to show, but it'll just be pencils for a little while. In the meantime, though, we have some things we're working on in the background. As I'm drawing the book, more art will be created in terms of trading card design, character, for the trading cards. So I got to do a bookmark. I'm hiring an artist to do. Zeb is writing an 8-page. We're doing a little 8-page ash can of like the Adventures of Toto, something like that. Sounds a little bit too much like the Adventures of Tintin, but something along those lines. It's a story about Toto going on. I don't know. Zeb's still writing it, but we're hiring. His name is Mark something, but most people know him as 6 a.m. Comics. So we're going to have him do that, and that's going to be probably a stretch goal that we'll add on to everybody's tier. Probably around it'd have to be a higher goal because I got to have enough to afford his page rate and page rate for a colorist if he doesn't do it himself and things like that. So,
all right, very cool. Well, I'm glad that you guys were able to come on tonight. I definitely appreciate it. For those in the chat who are still struggling trying to send super chat money our way, we don't do that. We would, but we can't do that because we don't have 1,000 subscribers yet. We're like 60 some odd away. So if you enjoyed tonight's show, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We are going to have more shows coming up very soon here. Every Wednesday, we have the LCS guys from around the country have a roundtable discussion, talk about selling comics in the current environment and how difficult it is and what they're doing to cope. That will be next Wednesday. We'll have them back. Also coming up later this week, we're going to have Team Peregrine on here to talk about their book. And we are also waiting to get a date confirmation to have Jim Ballant and Holly Golightly on here to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Tarot, Witch of the Black Rose. Tonight, obviously, we want you to hit that link and get out there and back Battle Brick Road, bring some Oz into your life. And if you want to help out the channel, obviously just go to criticalblast.com and let the ads carry you. It doesn't cost you a thing that way. Just check out our interviews and reviews. If you do need merchandise, we are a publishing house, and our first book, our hardcover young adult superhero novel, Bulletproof Origins by Stephen J. Mitchell, is available on Amazon, also in the link below. Cody Haywood wakes up on his 16th birthday to find out that his father's experiments when he was a baby have rendered him invulnerable to harm. And since he lives in a world of superheroes, he's going to go out and become one. Unfortunately for Cody, he has the attention span of a ferret on pixie sticks, so his friends have to help him focus. Otherwise, the terrorists who want the secret of being bulletproof are going to get it from him. That wraps the show for tonight, guys. Again, appreciate y'all being here. Would love to have you back. Get out there and back Battle Brick Road.
Thank you. Appreciate you having us.
Thanks for having us on.
Good night.